Aren't they just so cute? Little Jack and Jill. I've been knitting these just on and off for a little while now, and that's the recipe, if you like. Cast on 32 or 20 if you want a smaller doll. Start the shoes, do 4 rows, legs 14 rows, top 12 rows, face 16 rows, hair 1 row, and then the hat 9 rows. And within that 9 rows, start decreasing by knitting 4 and then knit 2 together for a row. Then the next row of knit 3 and then knit 2 together. And then on the next knit row, knit 2 and then knit 2 together, and you'll start decreasing for the lovely hat on the top of their head. Embroider some eyes. Yeah, stuff them as you create them. So I'm just going to show you one here's one I'm in the midst of making. I've kept all my ends long on purpose so I can use these ends to sew up along the body once I've knitted it. So I'm on the face now. So I'm just going to knit the face and then do the decreasing in the hat. Once I've done that, when I'm ready to sew the body up, I'll show you how to sew the body up and stuff as we go. Yeah, I just wanted to share these cute little dolls. My little grandson loves playing with them. We sing Jack and Jill and up the hill. And for our little Izzy doll, once you've knitted all of these stripes and cast off or decreased a little at the top of the hat to bring it in a little bit, and we're ready to sew it together and stuff it. So I've kept all the ends of my knitting because we're going to use that to sew it together, and we're going to use this toy fluff to stuff it. So if you start at the hat end, it's easier. Just get yourself a little wool sewing needle. The eye is slightly larger than the average sewing needle, so it's easier to get the wool into the sewing needle. And there's a right and a wrong way to thread a needle. And so if it doesn't go through one way, just turn your needle over and try again. You'll probably find it a lot easier. So I'm going to do wrong side to wrong side, and I'm just going to sew up along this edge here. You just take one stitch from each side, go along the top of the hat, sewing it up. A couple of stitches in that corner one, and then to go along the side seam, pick that one from that side and that bit from that side, and pull your yarn in that side and that side. Yeah, lining them up, the stitches, and you just sewing the hat together. That's why if you leave a nice long end on your knitting, the colour will match as you sew up down the side of your little knitted dolly. My grandson likes playing with my knitted dollies. He's called them Jack and Jill. And sings his version of the little nursery rhyme, which is great. They're really good for leaving places for random knitting kindness, and just leave a little note and saying please take me home. It brightens somebody's day. I'll just make all the characters from your favourite nursery rhyme and play with your kids or your grandkids or whoever wants to be jolly. So once you come to the end of that colour, sew the end in like so. It can stay in there, you don't need to cut it off, just tuck it up, and then you can stuff that first part of your little dolly. I'm going to stuff as we go, because then we've got a huge job at the end of trying to get the stuff in where we want it, and it just makes sewing up easier. So yeah, pop a nice wad of toy stuffing in the hat, and there's the hat. And this little orange stripe is the person's hair, so we're going to find the orange bit of wool, pop it on our sewing needle, and sew up. There's only 2 little stitches to be had here. 1, 2, it's enough to just keep it together. Take that last little one there. 1, 2, and then sew that up through just to bind it off. And that one I will cut off because I've had to come out of the hat and poke that back in. Alright, now we're on to the face. Now you've got a choice with the face. You can either sew little eyes on, or you can get some safety eyes and pop them in to sew in. I like to sew my eyes on because then I know nobody's going to be pulling them off and choking on them. Plus it keeps the cost of the project down, so I can make these little dollies and just give them away to anybody that needs a little cheering up or a little hug, or yeah, just a hello. Have a lovely little knitted doll. Everyone likes dollies, even if they won't admit it. We love them. So sew up halfway along your face colour. I've got this lovely creamy colour for the face of my dollies. You can do your dollies any colour you want. You can have matching ones to your outfit if you like. And we'll just take it 1 stitch from one side and 1 stitch from the other. When we get halfway down, we're going to decide which one's the front of our dolly, which one's the back of our dolly. And just have a little look at your dolly, and that's definitely the back because the hat's a little bit. So that's the front of my dolly, so I'm going to put the eyes there. So pick a nice eye colour. I've got a vibrant blue that I quite like, and also a dark blue. I'm going to go for vibrant this time. Just cut a length off. Just going to double up with on your sewing needle. Pop it onto your sewing needle and tuck it in half like that. So you've got 2 strands from one strand on your sewing needle, and just knot it at the end furthest from the needle. And I'm going to pop a couple of eyes on our person. So this side is the face, that side's the back of the head. So we're going to have 2 eyes positioned there and there. So if we do the first eye, go in from inside so the thread is inside, and then just go back on yourself, back out, and just again, and then over to the other eye. So we've got 4 lots of thread there, and just give it a little tug and manoeuvre your stitches like that, and then again in, out, in, out. It's like the hokey cokey, isn't it? Although we don't come out on that last one, we go down the side there and pull, so we're not left with the threads on the wrong side of the face. Give it a little tug and a little manipulation, and there we have our little eyes. You can go as ornate or as simple as you like. I just like the two little dots because I think they look quite cute. And then, yeah, chop off. Leave the end inside. Get a little bit of stuff in, and to poke it up into the head bit. And there's a hat. And then just make sure you keep these ends ready for sewing up. I don't seem to have a blue end, that's odd. Is that one gone then? Come on. So yeah, just keep stuffing. You can't really overstuff because after a while the stuffing will flatten out, so yeah, be generous with your stuffing. And then pick up your face coloured yarn again at the sides. Come here. Without picking up the eye threads. Pop it back on your sewing needle, or if you've got two sewing needles you don't need to take it off in the first place. And then we're going to sew down the side of our face on our little Lizzie doll. These are really good dolls for donating to hospitals, little children's wards, so they've got something that they can play with and splash around, and it doesn't matter if they get lost because somebody else will pick them up and play with them. All it takes is a little bit of your time and some wool scraps, which I'm sure if you're a knitter or a crocheter or even a weaver, you've got plenty of scrap yarn. So yeah, I just love these little dollies and their simplicity. So when you get to the end of the face colour, if you've got it, carry on with the colour of this one's got like a collar and then the main bit of the body, and then that's going to be his legs. So I'm just going to continue with the face colour because I don't seem to have a blue end, I don't know why. But never mind, I'm sure nobody's going to notice. When you're hand making something, it's going to be quirky and it's going to be original, and that's the beauty of handmade little gifts like this one. You could do Santa Claus or Father Christmas colours. You could do snowmen, teddy bears, add a few ears. There's lots that you can do with the Izzy doll basic shape. So I'll come to the end of that colour, so I'm just going to weave it up into the doll. I'm not losing my needle though, pull that out. I'll chop that through the end. That's it. And then as you can see, we've got some more stuffing to pop in, and then we're ready to sew the arms up and give them a bit of shape. So we're going to sew up the side of the arm bit, and then we're going to sew there and sew there to give it shape. And then stuff it. So this is how we sew up the arms, and been trying to demonstrate the sewing up of this dolly, and first I didn't press the record on some really funny footage, but never mind. And now I've managed to sew around the body of my dolly. What you're trying to achieve is a nice line of straight stitches to separate the arms. What you don't want to do is sew the stitches outside the dolly like I have. So I'm just going to leave that there as a reminder of what not to do. And in my video that didn't record, I was pulling the fluff from here and sewing it in, and yeah. So anyway, that's how you do the arms. And then we're going to do the same principle with the legs down here. So if you didn't catch the deleted video, which you would have been able to anyway, because, well, not deleted, it didn't actually record. I will show you again how to make these little creases for the arms and the legs. So we'll keep rolling, 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 rolling. And you need plenty of stuffing. This stuff that keeps going everywhere. And we'll pop it in there. And then once we've got plenty of fluff in there, we're gonna poke it to one side, and then we're gonna sew up his legs in his crotch area. So I'm gonna start from the top here. Come here. Put my needle through, all the way through, anchor my stitch, and then sew a nice straight line all the way down that will secure the fluff on one side of his body for one leg, and then we'll, come on, in you go, stuff the other leg. That's it, nice and tight, so you can see that the indent is forming, and that will give us the definition of our legs and our feet. We'll do feet in the matching colour for the shoes in a minute. So that gives us our leg definition, and just poke your needle up through like so. Get a little bit more fluff for that outer leg and pop it in. Actually no, scrap that. Let's cut this end off. I thread this outer thread, sew up the side of the body, and then stuff it, and then you're not getting stuffing all over the place. That's the plan. That's the plan, Stan. Right, so again, take a piece of that side and a stitch from that side, and start sewing up the side of our dolly. He's got quite long legs for a little one. And maybe at the end, take one from there, and sew it. And don't worry if your dolly doesn't line up too much, you can pull the stitches back onto each other like so. Don't get too perfectionist with them. These dollies are just little fun, quick little makes. And cast that one off. And then we're going to sew up his feet and do that mid line there. And then our Izzy Dolly is good to go. it on a sewing needle. Sew up the side seam. And zip one from one and one from the other. And then start sewing up the end, but don't totally sew up the base because we need to stuff the feet before we totally sew it up. So sew up halfway along. It's going to be 1 foot. Keep that thread out in case we need it. And then pop some floof into that corner. That's the 1 foot. Can be gets fiddly at this stage, so just roll your fluff up in a ball and poke it in right up into that corner. That's the foot. There we go. We'll make sure the leg's got enough stuff into. Poke it on down a bit more. You can't really overstuff, so just keep stuffing until it's nice and full, because it will flatten down with playing. And then with your sewing needle and thread, you're going to create the middle seam of the shoe connecting to the leg that defines his feet from one another, like so. And just put that up into the body and chop it off. Now with this final bit of thread, put it on the sewing needle. And the yarn splitting. Let's try that again. Hold it tighter. Push it on. And there is a right side and a wrong side to a sewing needle, so if it doesn't work the first time, just turn it over and pop it on. So we just need to stuff this final foot right into a bowl, pop it in, I can hear a crow in the distance, and that always reminds me of my grans, because there was crows in the field out the back, and it was my gran that taught me to love sewing and knitting and all the wonderful crafty things. So it's quite a lot. There's a crow there reminding me of my gran in the background. So yeah, just sew up the foot of our Izzy doll, and we have completed it. And we now have created a wonderful new little dolly for ourselves or somebody else to enjoy. He's a little bit lopsided, and as I say, I might put a couple of stitches in there just to make him more human shaped, or I might leave him and just have him as a little weirdo. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video on how to make an Izzy doll. There's lots of other videos on my channel, Granie Anie Creates, lots of crochet videos, knitting and sewing videos, and I hope to eventually make some spinning and weaving videos, so watch this space. And if you've enjoyed my video, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe. It really helps my channel reach more people, so they can watch my hopefully inspiring creative videos. And check out the links for all the things. I've got some books and some courses on crochet and knitting. Yeah, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.